Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report, the day for July the 20th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. And of course, you can always catch the show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, on YouTube and podcast services around the world. And today we have a lot of news to dive into, from today's very miniature Nintendo Direct to some Call of Duty Black Ops leaks. I've got everything to keep you up to date on what's happening in the gaming industry. And let's go ahead and get into those Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War maps, campaign, and zombies leaks. Data miners have grabbed the latest Call of Duty 2020 leak and pulled it apart to reveal details of the maps, multiplayer, zombies, and campaign in the rumored Black Ops game. An alpha build of the game, currently under the codename The Red Door, leaked on Xbox servers last week after a similar listing popped up on PSN. Now, resourceful data miner Prototype Warehouse has gotten hands-on with the code and pulled it apart to discover a whole bunch of names that provide clues to the content of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Leaks from the campaign of the game back up the suggestions that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is set in Vietnam, Germany, Russia, and Nicaragua. Here is a bunch of names or code names for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War's multiplayer maps, which seemingly take the player to Miami and Moscow. You have Black Sea, Cartel, KGB, Miami, Moscow, Satellite, Tank, Tundra, and of course, the hashtag first is what Prototype Warehouse is tagging them with on Twitter. This leak is short and sweet, but it's a reference to a zombies mode. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is from developer Treyarch, and the series is known for its 4-player zombies co-op modes, and of course this is referring to Silver. Also included in the round of leaks are references to the free Battle Royale Call of Duty Warzone mode, with Dugga Forest, Russia, and ski slopes all mentioned. Publisher Activision has usually announced its annual Call of Duty title by this time of year, so maybe we will see a proper reveal at the Xbox Series X showing on Thursday. That's very doubtful, I will be the first to admit that. Let's go ahead and start there. Will we see Call of Duty Black Ops fully revealed at this week's Xbox event? And quite frankly, I doubt it because of the exclusivity, or at least timed exclusivity deal that Activision seems to have signed for a multi-year time frame with Sony to publish stuff first on PlayStation, at least in some kind of partial way. In the example of Call of Duty Modern Warfare from 2019, you saw a Spec Ops mode held for an entire year. It is still not out on Xbox One at the time of this podcast. In the past, you have seen DLCs held back for a 1-month time frame, something along those lines, and that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon, but this would be a massive deal if that was in fact the case. And of course, I am not completely 100% sure of the logistics of those contracts or how long they last, but it was a multi-year deal that was signed, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, in terms of what we know, again, this is just giving us a brief glimpse into what we could be getting for Call of Duty 2020, but it certainly seems to be going in the direction that gets me excited. I love the idea of returning to Vietnam, and I've been saying this since these leaks first started springing up, because Call of Duty Black Ops remains one of my favorite games of all time, and on top of that, probably I would go so far as to say my favorite Call of Duty game in the entire franchise. There's something about that soundtrack and that entire time period that really just speaks to me. Big fan of it. But if you are looking forward to this year's Call of Duty, you now have a little bit more information to mull over while we wait for an entire release. I was thinking about this game over the weekend, to be quite frank with you, and I'm a little bit concerned about it overall, and I'll tell you why. We should have seen something by now, unless the marketing team is taking a very different approach and waiting much longer to reveal their game. Usually the Call of Duty game begins to get leaked around March or April, and then we generally see a big reveal during E3 in June. Now, of course, there was no E3 this year. COVID-19 happened, so that kind of threw a lot of plans off the rails, but still, it's almost the end of July. We're getting into August. If this game is to launch in late October or early November, we should probably be getting that marketing machine rolling very shortly. I hope it comes soon because I am very excited to see what is happening. But on top of a new Call of Duty game, you could be getting a Splinter Cell return, hypothetically. The Italian voice actor for Sam Fisher has once again teased that Splinter Cell could be making a return sooner than expected. Fans have been pining for a new Splinter Cell game for years and will be delighted to hear that Luca Ward, who voices protagonist Sam Fisher in the Italian version of the games, has hinted that the series could see a new installment very soon. However, it's important to note that this is not the first time Ward has teased a new Splinter Cell game, so it's worth taking the news with a pinch of salt. The news comes from Italian site multiplayer.it, who recently published an interview with Ward. They say, quote, "There is this return of Splinter Cell which should take place, I think, for a conclusive episode, but I'm not sure about this," said Ward. However, they have not yet figured out whether to do it in 2021. Before it had to be 2020, then what happened, and in 2020 several big projects got stuck, others went on like Cyberpunk 2077, on which I have almost finished working, end quote. "But I am sure that Splinter Cell will return, that is a fact," Ward added. News of a new Splinter Cell has been circulating for quite some time. Last year, Ubisoft said it wanted to come back big with a franchise, while Ubisoft Spain also posted a tweet alluding to the possibility of a new Splinter Cell game. It's also worth noting that Ubisoft has stated that it has multiple unannounced AAA games currently in development, one of which was recently revealed to be Far Cry 6. On that note, it's becoming increasingly likely that Far Cry 6 could be a Far Cry 3 prequel, and you can find that information on last week's episodes of the Jampack Report or on VG247. But Splinter Cell is certainly a game that is poised to make a comeback, but I don't think we are going to be getting this anytime soon, because if you were to reveal a Splinter Cell as a launch game for the next generation consoles, fans would have gone wild, and you should have done that at Ubisoft Forward if that was going to be the case. Now, with all of that being said, it's wise to hold out and not use all of your big games in one go. You should be able to sprinkle out some of these amazing AAA games throughout the course of a generation. So let's assume that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still on course, still happening, still coming out at some point in the future, which is, again, kind of up in the air at this point. So if you have Far Cry 6 within the launch time frame of the newest generation of consoles, and with that I mean within the first 6 months, then perhaps next fall you could be seeing perhaps a new Splinter Cell. Maybe it could get revealed during next year's E3 time period, whatever that ends up looking like, and released later on in the year. Then, maybe in spring of 2022 or maybe fall of 2022, you could see Beyond Good and Evil 2. Again, that's all hypotheses, but very interesting to kind of dream up what could happen and how they could time these games appropriately. But regardless, excited to see what comes of Splinter Cell if it ever is to make a comeback. The IP is not dormant by any stretch of the imagination. You see Sam Fisher popping up in plenty of games from time to time, most recently in a mobile game, if I remember correctly, and before that, there is a crossover in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and if I remember correctly, even something in Ghost Recon Wildlands, but don't quote me on that one. However, exciting times for the Ubisoft fans. Another VG247 story for today's show, the Mass Effect Trilogy is probably out in March of 2021. The rumored remaster of the first 3 Mass Effect games is probably due for a release in March of next year. Why, you might ask? That's when the Art of Mass Effect Trilogy Expanded Edition is due for release according to Amazon.com. You can go and pre-order now if that is your kind of thing. The blurb makes the Mass Effect games sound more exciting than I remember them saying, at least the author says at VG247. The book says, and I quote, "Expanded with hundreds of never-before-seen works of art, this new edition delves deeper than ever into the sci-fi saga that changed video games forever," it reads. Containing extensive new material from the DLCs for all 3 games, including the award-winning Lair of the Shadow Broker from Mass Effect 2 and the fan-favorite Citadel from Mass Effect 3. Experience the evolution of the aliens, planets, ships, and technology that define this iconic science fiction universe as the developers who brought BioWare's masterpiece to life take you from the earliest design sketches through to the meticulous final renders. Brimming with concept art and commentary, this expanded edition is the ultimate companion to one of the greatest series in the history of gaming, and Amazon has the book set for release on March 31st of 2021. Now, if we look forward to March 31st of 2021, that is on a Tuesday. So, it could line up with a release for Mass Effect Trilogy. That certainly makes sense. Of course, there is an HD project that has been mentioned by EA in the past, and this is something that should have come out by now, but that would make sense to have within that launch time frame of the new generation of consoles, as we were discussing earlier. I wouldn't even be shocked to see this be an announcement baked into the Xbox event this Thursday, because of course Electronic Arts could announce it on their own and it would be monumental, but to strike a deal with Xbox and maybe have some kind of timed exclusivity would be a big win for Microsoft. A loss for the gamers, admittedly. Not great to have any kind of timed exclusivity, but trying to figure out when this announcement is coming is the goal here, and it could be as soon as a couple of days from now. Alternatively, you could see some kind of announcement later on this fall. That would make sense too. But the Summer Game Fest seems to be the time to really let people know what is coming within at least the next year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see an announcement of Mass Effect's Trilogy at some point in the next few weeks. But we got more details today about Spider-Man Miles Morales. Specifically, it's going to be playable in 4K 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5 because of performance mode. Spider-Man Miles Morales will be playable in 4K at 60 FPS on PlayStation 5, developer Insomniac Games said on Twitter on Monday, thanks to an optional performance mode. Marvel's Spider-Man ran at a solid 30 frames per second on PS4 and PS4 Pro based on an analysis by Digital Foundry. It is not clear what compromises Spider-Man Miles Morales will make to achieve 4K 60, but it is possible that features like real-time ray tracing and other rendering effects could be disabled in performance mode to emphasize frame rate and resolution. They have reached out to Sony Interactive Entertainment at Polygon for additional details and will update when the company responds. On PlayStation 4 Pro, Sony and its first-party developers have given players the option to prioritize frame rate or resolution, as well as other fidelity settings in games such as God of War, The Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, and The Last Guardian. Spider-Man Miles Morales was revealed for PS5 in June. The follow-up to 2018's Marvel Spider-Man will be a standalone game with a reportedly smaller scope than Peter Parker's adventure. This bothers me a bit, and I'll explain why. I have faith that the PlayStation 5 is going to make incredible experiences, and the narratives that developers that make games exclusively on PlayStation consoles create are second to none. God of War, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, all phenomenal games. But when it comes to building the console of the future, 4K 60 should be a baseline expectation, and you shouldn't really have to sacrifice anything to make that possible, because then this feels like an incremental step up between the Xbox Series X and the PS4 Pro, and what the PlayStation 5 is going to be capable of alongside the Xbox Series X. I want to be able to have ray tracing and 4K support and 60 FPS and high quality textures. Is that a lot to ask for? Yes. Should it be possible? Hypothetically. But it seems this performance mode is going to be giving players more of a PC-style optimization roster of settings where you can choose what you want to really stand out depending on the kind of experience you want to have. On PCs, you can do the exact same thing, where if you want very high quality textures, you can turn down the FPS, you can turn down the quality of other elements of the game, or vice versa. If you want a very high frame rate, which many people want in high quality, very fast-paced, Twitch-based shooters like Call of Duty, like Valorant, etc., you can turn down the quality of the textures and the ray tracing, etc., to up that frame rate if you don't have very, very high-end PC hardware. And so it seems like that's going to be continuing onto the PlayStation 5. I suppose this is the best option in the situation we've been presented, but in the words of Queen, I want it all. Yeah. I want it now. It's a good song. You should look it up. But that's what you're going to be getting with Spider-Man Miles Morales when it launches this holiday season on the PlayStation 5 exclusively. Now let's go over everything that happened at today's July Nintendo Direct Mini, and let me tell you, it's not that much. A few updates on previously announced games for Nintendo Switch. It was not a full Direct, but it will do. Today, in the spirit of springing things on us without warning, Nintendo dropped a new Direct Mini all at once, no stream. It's specifically called a Partner Showcase, actually, which, according to Nintendo, is a new series focused on titles from our development and publishing partners. This is kind of halfway between a Nindies Direct and a Big Direct. So what did Nintendo share? Let's take a look. Cadence of Hyrule. Crypt of the Necrodancer is getting 3 DLC packs, a character pack, Impa, Area, Shadow Link, Shadow Zelda, and Frederick, a melody pack with 39 songs, and a Symphony of the Mask playable story DLC with Skull Kid. DLC 1 is available today, with others coming before the end of October. A Season Pass is also coming today with bonus Link and Zelda costumes, and an Ultimate Physical Edition dropping on October the 23rd. Individual DLC packs are priced at $5.99, the Season Pass is $14.99, and the Physical Edition is $39.99. The shooter Rogue Company is slated for Switch. Also worth mentioning that hit early access beta today, I believe is how they phrased that. So if you want to check out Hi-Rez's new FPS, of course they are the creators of games like Smite and Realm Royale, you can check that out soon. WWE 2K Battlegrounds is coming to Switch on September the 18th. A Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD remaster is arriving on Switch in spring of 2021, and Shin Megami Tensei 5 is coming in 2021 as well. If you want to check out the entire showcase, it is only 8 minutes and 13 seconds long, which, looking at my recording, seems to be shorter than this podcast. So if you would like to give that a look, by all means, you can certainly dive in and watch the entire thing for yourself. Now, in memorandum, a new Xbox One update hit over the weekend that officially removes Mixer integration. Good night, sweet prince. Microsoft announced a few weeks back it would be putting its streaming platform Mixer to bed in July. In its place, a new partnership with Facebook Gaming coming about on July the 22nd. As of today, the realization that Mixer is indeed leaving this mortal coil has come about once again, as Microsoft pushed out a new update for Xbox One that is removing the streaming service from the console entirely. The latest patch for the system, which is available to download right now, not only removes Mixer integration from Xbox One platforms, but also makes the Events application a permanent addition. Previously, Events was only available in a beta iteration. Again, none of this is surprising whatsoever, given that Microsoft announced that this would all be happening back in June, but it is a bit bizarre to see the Xbox One dashboard without Mixer involved. The console has been that's a strange word to throw in there. The console has been intrinsically tied to the streaming platform since Microsoft acquired it back in 2017, and has since seen many streamlined features that integrated the service to the core Xbox One experience over the years. While Mixer never gained the notoriety or usage rates that Microsoft clearly hoped it would, the way in which it was utilized natively within the Xbox One was personally found to be pretty convenient. With Mixer now bowing out from the streaming space, the domain is now largely dominated by Twitch, YouTube Gaming, and Facebook Gaming. And as for Ninja, Mixer's most popular streamer, who Microsoft signed an exclusivity deal with back in 2019, it looks as though he'll be taking its talents to YouTube in the future. Hypothetically, we covered that on an episode of the Jampack Report a couple of weeks back. You can check out that story if you would like. So, Mixer is officially going the way of the road. It is a bummer, and I talked about this on Twitter earlier in the week, and there was a lot going on behind the scenes of Mixer on a corporate level within Microsoft that makes it negative, I suppose, offboarding. It was not killed off, for lack of a better term, in the way that many had hoped that it would at least be. Because I think we all kind of expected the Mixer would never become the streaming Goliath that many people had hoped that it would. But even with that being said, careers had been built, communities had been built, and there were many people that called Mixer home. There were people that whenever they got off work or they got home from school that would go to Mixer and consume content and hang out with friends that they had made online and build these relationships. And it's a huge bummer to see it being offed within a matter of just a few weeks. I think that's what's really jarring to me, is that Mixer didn't even have a year, didn't have 6 months. It's like, hey, next month going bye-bye, for lack of a better term again. And here you have it, being completely and totally chopped off from the Xbox One ecosystem. Literally years of iterations, years of new additions, completely thrown to the wayside and just chopped off like an extra leg. Wild to me. But of course, the Xbox One is officially free of Mixer, so hopefully this marks a turning point for the Xbox brand going into the future. I think that whenever this Thursday comes and you see all the announcements from the Xbox team, you are going to be seeing the future of Xbox itself as a brand, because you are going to see tons of games that have been in development. You are going to be seeing the power of next-gen hardware, and I have faith that Microsoft is really going to kill it. And of course, Mixer going the way of the road, as I like to call it, is certainly a part of that. But to round out today's show, hackers have discovered a native PS1 emulator for PS4. The emulator, which will only run on modified PS4 consoles, can be used to play several original PlayStation games at up to 4K resolution, and it's found within the 2019 remaster for Medieval. The PS1 emulator was discovered following the release of a new firmware exploit which allowed modders to dump Medieval and explore its game files. Hackers then found out that the unlockable PS1 version of Medieval included in the remaster was being powered by the emulator. So far, fans have been able to play other games on PS4, including Konami's Silent Hill, Wipeout 3, and Spyro the Dragon. However, there are some compatibility issues with certain titles. It is likely that the official PS1 emulator is used to run the selection of classic games available on the PlayStation Store. Sony released a retro console, the PlayStation Classic, in 2018, which hackers were quickly able to modify to play ROMs of any PS1 title. So, of course, if you do want to dive in and give that a look, you can find the classic version of Medieval in the PlayStation 4 remaster of Medieval itself that launched in 2019, which again, how is that already almost a year old? But if you do want to check out what games can be emulated, you will have to dive a bit deeper into the realm of the internet and find out exactly how to do that, because guess what? I don't want to go to jail by the Sony police. That's just me, though. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you did, drop me a like down below and let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about here today. Are you excited for Call of Duty? How do you feel about Marvel getting into the Spider-Man universe on the PlayStation 5 in 4K 60 FPS? Just let me know what you think about the show down below. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic one. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.